One woman's fake documents changed the course of history. We all know about D-Day, the largest seaborne invasion in history that turned the tide of World War II. But what if I told you the success of that monumental operation hinged on a massive deception, a grand illusion orchestrated by a handful of people, including one particularly brilliant woman? This is the story of Operation Fortitude, and the spy who fooled Hitler's entire intelligence network with a web of ingenious lies. Let's rewind to 1944. The Allies are planning their return to mainland Europe. The stakes couldn't be higher. A successful landing could mean the beginning of the end for the Nazi regime. A failure would be catastrophic, costing hundreds of thousands of lives and potentially prolonging the war for years. The Germans knew an invasion was coming. The big question was not if, but where. Their best guess? The Pas-de-Calais, the narrowest point of the English Channel. It was the most logical, most direct route, and the Allies knew that the Germans knew this. So they had to convince them they were right, while secretly planning to land somewhere else entirely, Normandy. This is where our story gets fascinating. To pull this off, the Allies created a ghost army, the First U.S. Army Group, or FUSAG. This entirely fictional force was supposedly stationed in southeast England, poised to strike at Calais. They had inflatable tanks, dummy landing craft, and fake radio chatter, creating the illusion of a massive military build-up. But an army, even a fake one, needs a commander. And who better to lead it than the one general the Germans feared most? General George S. Patton. His presence alone gave the Phantom Army an air of terrifying credibility. But how do you feed this false information to the enemy? You can't just send them a memo. You need spies, but not just any spies. You need spies you can trust to be untrustworthy. This brings us to the double-cross system, or the XX system, born in Russia. Natalie, who went by the name Lily, was a fascinating character. She was an independent, adventurous woman who loved animals, especially her little dog Babs, who she took everywhere, even on secret missions. She had initially approached the Germans in Madrid, offering her services as a spy, but her true loyalties lay with the Allies. After making contact with the British Embassy, she was recruited by MI5 and given the codename Treasure. She was resourceful, brave, and crucially, the Germans trusted her implicitly. She was the perfect conduit for the most important lie of the war. Lily's primary handler on the British side was a woman named Mary Shearer. Together, they crafted the persona of a well-connected informant moving through London's high society. Gathering intelligence, Lily's reports to the Abwehr, the German military intelligence, were a masterclass in deception. They were filled with just enough verifiable, but harmless, information to seem credible. She'd report on real troop movements, but misinterpret their significance. She described the insignia of units she'd seen near Dover, insignia that belonged to the non-existent FUSAG. Imagine this scene, a clandestine meeting in a foggy London park. Lily, looking chic and inconspicuous, passes a seemingly innocent letter to a contact. But hidden within its prose are details about Patton's ghost army. Or picture her in her small apartment, carefully composing a message in invisible ink, with her little dog Babs sleeping at her feet. These messages, sent via secret channels to Lisbon and Madrid, were treated as gospel by the German High Command. They painted a vivid picture of a massive invasion force, ready to storm the beaches of Calais. One of her most brilliant contributions involved maps. Lily was tasked with creating detailed maps of the Allied invasion plans for Calais. Of course, these were entirely fake. Working with British intelligence artists, she produced documents that looked incredibly authentic, complete with markings for troop deployments, artillery positions, and landing zones. These weren't just simple sketches, they were professional, convincing pieces of military intelligence. Getting these maps into German hands was a critical part of the deception. The sheer detail and apparent accuracy of her work cemented her status as a top-tier agent. In the eyes of her German handlers, as D-Day approached, the pressure mounted. On June 6, 1944, Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy. The surprise was almost total. But the deception wasn't over. In fact, its most crucial phase had just begun. Hitler and his generals were convinced that Normandy was just a feint, a diversion to draw their forces away from the real invasion site at Pas-de-Calais. They couldn't believe the Allies would attack at a less logical location. And why did they believe this so strongly? Because their most trusted agents, like Treasure, were telling them so. In the critical hours and days following the Normandy landings, Lily continued to send urgent messages. She reported that FUSAG was still in England at full strength, preparing for the main assault. She claimed the Normandy operation was a trick. Her reports, combined with those from other double agents in the XX network, were instrumental in convincing the Germans to keep their powerful 15th Army, a huge force of tanks and infantry, waiting in the Pas-de-Calais. They held them there for weeks, expecting a second, larger invasion that would never come. Those weeks were decisive. By holding back their reserves, the Germans gave the Allies the precious time they needed to establish a secure beachhead in Normandy, pour in reinforcements, and break out into the French countryside. The Phantom Army, brought to life through the reports of agents like Lily, had effectively neutralized a real one. The deception had worked better than anyone could have dreamed. The course of the war and of history had been irrevocably altered. After the war, Lily faded from the public eye. Like many who worked in the shadows, her contributions remained a closely guarded secret for decades. She even wrote a book about her experiences, titled Treasure Hunt. But she had to be careful not to reveal classified information. It is only in recent years that the full extent of her bravery and the critical role she played in Operation Fortitude have come to light. The story of Lily Sergue, Agent Treasure, is a powerful reminder that history is often shaped not just by soldiers on the battlefield, but by the quiet, courageous individuals working behind the scenes. One woman, armed with little more than her wits, a sharp mind, and a talent for fabrication, helped save thousands of lives and ensure the success of the most pivotal moment of World War II. Her story is a testament to the incredible impact of intelligence, deception, and the bravery of the unsung heroes of the war. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories from history. We'll see you in the next video.